Now, the attorney for former agency official Lois Lerner says she will testify before Congress, but only if granted immunity. Now, you'll remember that Lerner benefited from the House Oversight Committee after making a statement declaring her innocence.
I decided to follow my counsel's advice and not testify or answer any of the questions today. Because I'm asserting my right not to testify, I know that some people will assume that I've done something wrong. I have not. One of the basic functions of the Fifth Amendment is to protect innocent individuals, and that is the protection I'm invoking today.
Well, it also tends to protect guilty, but I digress. Lerner is currently on paid leave after refusing to resign. Byron York is the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner and a Fox News contributor. Byron, happy Independence Day. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Greg.
It was a no-brainer. I mean, ever since she held up her hand at the protest, we knew that eventually she and her lawyer would be angling for immunity. The question, I suppose, now is the kind of immunity that could be offered here. She'd love to have, I'm sure, full immunity. I suspect the committee would rather give limited or use immunity. What do you think?
Yeah, she got off on the wrong foot with House Republicans just at the very beginning, because she did make this kind of lengthy proclamation of her innocence, and then she said, oh, by the way, I'm not going to answer any of your questions. A lot of Republicans felt that she actually waived her right to not answer questions by making that statement of innocence, and actually the committee voted on party lines on a resolution saying that she had waived that. So what I'm told this morning is that her lawyers have not actually approached the House yet, so they haven't had this negotiation. But what will happen if they do approach the House is, I think they'll all get together in a meeting, close doors, and say, look, what we say doesn't go beyond this room, but if she were given immunity, she would testify to this, and this. Yeah. And then the House will say either, well, that sounds good, or they'll say, that's just not enough, you don't get immunity.
Yeah, it's called a proffer. I mean, the lawyer comes forth and says, you can't use any of this, but here's the proffer from my client. And sometimes they literally have the client, engage in Q&A and so forth. But again, it can't be used against them. And it's tricky stuff, because if you grant limited or reduced immunity, as Ollie North received in Iran-Contra, you'll recall he eventually was prosecuted nevertheless. But let me go to something else. The Justice Department made this big announcement. We are launching a criminal investigation. And then, of course, FBI Director Mueller gets up there in front of Congress, and when asked, well, who heads your investigation? He fumbles, mumbles, stumbles, and frankly, he says in the end, well, I don't know. And then there is this from the lawyer who represents 41 of the targeted conservative groups. Take a listen, Byron.
I mean, all the FBI knows, we filed the lawsuit, the list of groups is there, their contact information, where to find them, who they are, and not one of them in over a month now, we're looking at 6 weeks, has been contacted by the FBI for this investigation.
Are you beginning to wonder if there really is a criminal investigation?
Well, certainly Republicans are. That was a really embarrassing moment with Robert Mueller not even knowing who was doing this big high-profile alleged investigation. And Republicans on Capitol Hill are taking this into account as they think about immunity, because there's always a conflict. If you're doing a congressional investigation, the conflict between the kind of information you want to get out to the public in public hearings and the kind of information that would compromise a criminal investigation. Well, if Republicans believe that the Obama Justice Department is really just going to drag its feet, not really pursue a real criminal investigation, I think the Republicans are going to be more motivated to try to get everything out in public, so at least people know what happened.
What about the feckless new commissioner, Danny Werfel? And I use the term feckless only because, he appears under oath before Congress, and he's the Sergeant Schultz of the IRS. I know nothing, I see nothing, I hear nothing. He couldn't even explain his own investigation, could he?
No, and see, what you're saying is, as Republicans face this problem, they think, well, how can we break through this? If the Justice Department is not really going to pursue it, if the IRS really cannot investigate itself, then what can we as Republicans who control the House of Representatives do here? And that's where immunity might come in. If they could find one person who would actually speak from the inside as to what happened, they could possibly get to the bottom of this. If they don't do that, I think they fear there's a possibility that they'll never come out.
Byron York, happy Independence Day. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Greg.